Hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast. It is Saturday night and we come to you on the eve of the final day of the 2025 tennis season. A day that will see a Davis Cup final between Spain and Italy. It's Sinneraz without Jannik Sinner or Carlos Alcaraz. And that is a pretty fascinating prospect. David and I are here battling the onset of British winter. Our struggle is very real, David.
Yes. I've been coaching my son's football match today, which was abandoned in the freezing cold and rain because it was unplayable. So that was lovely. And yet I have been warmed up by what I've seen in this Davis Cup. It is bizarre to have this lineup for the final without the two people that we expected to be talking about in it. But even though that may reduce the number of headlines, it's meant that the storylines have been perhaps more fun and more fascinating. The actual matches themselves, the unknowns, it's been great, actually.
Yeah, scale of 1 to 10, Matt, in the 48 hours since we were last podcasting, how much fun have you had out there in Bologna?
It's been so much fun. I'm not going to lie. I think yesterday we were at a 10 during the Cobolli Bergs tie break, which I'm sure we're going to talk all about. And then today didn't quite hit those heights, but still a very, very intriguing, fun tie between Spain and Germany. And yeah, I've been ruminating a lot on the whole Alcaraz Sinner of it all, because you know that is the ultimate in men's tennis right now, Alcaraz Sinner. And I'm not going to lie, I think I would be even more excited about tomorrow were we to have Sinner and Alcaraz here. But I do think the fact that they've not been here has made the rest of the tournament up to that point a bit more intriguing and interesting and open. And I think the fact that they both weren't here probably ended up sort of balancing it out in the end, and meaning that we didn't end up with like one super team. So yeah, it has been a really, really fascinating tournament. I'm not saying men's tennis is better without Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner, but it has given a different sort of fresh feel to the event. And do I wish they were here tomorrow? Yes, but I still think it's going to be a very, very intriguing final. And I'm kind of invested in these players now, you know, and I want to see their stories complete and play out tomorrow.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? Like, let's not pretend we wouldn't be extra hype if it was Alcaraz Sinner happening tomorrow, with the slightly different complexion of them playing for their countries and for the Davis Cup. And yet there is genuinely a part of me that's like, well, there is only one story in men's tennis outside of the Davis Cup, and that is Alcaraz and Sinner. And I'm not remotely relieved that we're not getting it, but I'm excited by the prospect of properly being invested in something different, because yes, I know there are other stories in men's tennis. I'm exaggerating, but they're just not as interesting or as gripping. Or, you know, Felix Auger-Aliassime against Alex de Minaur, I'm afraid doesn't get my juices flowing particularly. But Pablo Carreno Busta against Matteo Berrettini in the Davis Cup final in the year 2025, sign me up, David. I'm all in on that. I've always said I thought Pablo Carreno Busta was a great pick.
I was going to say, is it fair to say a week ago, maybe if I'd told you that, you maybe wouldn't have been that into it? But the way it's played out, it feels different to how one expected.
Look, the way it's played out has definitely helped, for sure. But I think would have known a week ago that regardless of the scenario, team competitions do get you invested in things that you wouldn't otherwise be. And that is the beauty of them.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the one thing I would love to have seen more than Sinner against Alcaraz is Sinner against Alcaraz in the doubles. I would have loved to have seen that for a deciding match. But look, that's just curiosity as much as anything, because Actually, I think it would have meant a heck of a lot to those two if they'd been in it. And I mean, you can see how invested Alcaraz is by the posts he's putting out there. But to watch these guys the last 2 days, this is the biggest thing in their years. I think if you ask them at the end of this, whoever wins, you could ask Cobolli, you could ask Berrettini, you could ask Pablo Carreno Busta, you could ask Jaume Munar and the doubles guys. This would be the biggest match of their year, and that's a great feeling on the eve of it. You know, it makes me care all the more. I mean, I think Davis Cup, regardless of the format, and I think there is still a lot to kind of try to ruminate on and work out what's the best way forward for the competition. I think that there are people in charge. Ross Hutchins has come into the ITF. I think all these people, they still know they've got stuff to think about, talk about, work out. But my God, the magic of it is still there. It's still there. It may not be perfect, but there's nothing quite like it in the sport.
And it's caring, I think, for me anyway, that largely I will carry forth into the rest of my watching of men's tennis. Like I'm invested in Flavio Cobolli now. The Davis Cup has brought something out of him that I previously was not aware of. Maybe he wasn't aware of it. Maybe only David Law has been aware of it up until now. Just like, you know, the ATP finals did in Lorenzo Musetti. I'm more invested in him than I was before that tournament and his nightmare quest to reach said tournament. But yeah, I can wait no longer, Matt, before we talk about Flavio Cobolli. We are all Flavio Cobolli guys now. What a guy. What a guy. Talk us through his victory over Zizou Bergs yesterday, saving 7 match points along the way, winning the match and the tie for Italy on his 7th match point, 6-3, 6-7, 7-6 over a just devastated Zizou Bergs. Cobolli comforted him afterwards. His dad has done a heartfelt social media post today about how proud he is of him. It was everything, this match yesterday, and you got to be there.
And I hope I'm not saying something that I shouldn't be saying here, but I know that the Davis Cup social media team have got in touch with Zizou Bergs' dad, and he's agreed to voice a video about you know, that match and how he felt for Zizou Bergs, and kind of, I think, maybe read out what he wrote on social media. Like, he seems like a real good one, Zizou Bergs' dad, in a world and a sport of tennis where we're often sort of wondering about tennis parents. I do think Zizou Bergs' dad might be a good one, and he's certainly raised a pretty special kid as well. As much as I'm a Flavio Cobolli guy, I think I might be a Zizou Bergs guy as well. That was sensational yesterday. I have been extremely lucky this year to have had some of the best tennis watching experiences I've ever had this season. You know, right back in the start of the year with Madison Keys in Australia, of course the Sinneraz Roland Garros final, and then, you know, the Grand Slam summer of Amanda Anisimova. Like, these were all incredible experiences I've had, and this was up there with them yesterday. Cobolli and Bergs in the Davis Cup, a 17-15 final set tie break. And the press seats here, which I sort of moaned about the other day, actually sort of came into their own here, because they are right in the thick of it. You know, they're not stewarded. There's fans in the press seats, and, you know, most of the time that's quite annoying. But on this occasion, it was actually awesome, because there was people jumping up, living every single moment, you know, moaning mid-rally when they think the ball's going to go out, and suddenly realizing that it's in, and having to change their mind, and suddenly realize, oh no, Cobolli is still in this rally, and just things like that, which just added to the feel and the drama of being in the stadium. I was also tasked by the Davis Cup social media team, who knew I was in the press seats, to try and film match point I said, fine, that's an absolutely okay task. That is something that I can do. I can film match point. Of course, 13 match points were saved in this match. So my phone is just filled with unusable clips of about 10 seconds long of one match point after another coming and going. And it was just absolutely peak tennis because both players were a bit fallible. Sometimes they were missing in a dramatic way. Bergs was very tight on his 2 match points that he had on the forehand right at the start of the tie break. But they were also conjuring up magic at times as well on those biggest points. There was an incredible Cobolli defensive shot that ended up with him hitting a smash to save a match point. Bergs hit a forehand volley at full stretch to save a match point. And you had these 2 things going on. Is the next point going to be brilliant? Is it going to be an error? You just did not know. And the tension was mounting up and up. The crowd was in an absolute frenzy. Cobolli was whipping them up. Cobolli is one of the guys that an Italian crowd can really connect with, and he gets that. And it was just the most incredible theatre. You had absolutely no idea which way it was going to go. And I felt very, very lucky to be in the stadium. I loved it.
Okay, I've got FOMO
I feel
now.
quite giddy.
Yeah, I've got retrospective FOMO. And I'm also preparing myself to cry at whatever this video is that the Davis Cup social media team are lining up for tomorrow. David, your experience of watching that extraordinary drama?
Well, I was thinking back to how our year with Zizou Bergs started with him knocking out Christian Garin in that changeover match when he was running from one side to the other. Accidental, but oh my word, dramatic. But he has been one of the players of the Davis Cup finals, really, hasn't he? I was talking the other day when he beat Artur Rundiknecht about what a compact game he seems to have, that he can rely on it from the baseline. In this match, at some point, you actually had to hit out and really go for your shots. And what I loved about these two is they were both going for it. They were both, they were battling their nerves, as you say, and there were moments where they're just, they can't breathe for the errors that they're making in their anxiety, but they were still trying to win it. They weren't just extending rallies, that's an absolutely legitimate way to win, and if you can pull it off, good for you. But my favourite type of player is the one that tries to win it on their own racket, and these two were just grunting for all they're worth when they're hitting the ball, and they're so fast around the court.
Did they both develop new grunts over the course of this
There
match?
was some comical Zizou Bergs.
Sounded like the Rublev grunt.
Yes. And look, I understand it. They're just throwing heart and soul into these ground strokes, and they're just trying to get that last little drop out of themselves. But they're both so fast and so dexterous that they were getting to balls that were just absurd, really, and extending rallies. It was wonderful. Honestly, I at the start of the tiebreak, I thought Bergs would win it. The way he'd started it, the way he just looked maybe a little more composed, and then it was when he got into a winning.
Was very convincing.
Yeah, then he got into the winning position. He started to miss a couple that I don't think he's missing earlier on, and equally Cobolli's hitting out, saving some of them as well. It was magical stuff, really, and I started to think, well, how's this tiebreak ever going to end? Because they're so evenly matched. 17-15 tells you the answer. And then I started to really worry for the one who didn't win. And I was trying to think, who do I actually want to win? Because I am a Cobolli guy, and I do love Italy, obviously. But I've also really got into Belgium, and just didn't seem fair for one of them to have to lose this match. But great sport. Just fantastic sporting drama.
Yeah, I usually absolutely loathe the cliche, that, there are no losers here, or nobody deserved to lose this match. This is sport. Somebody always deserves to lose. Sorry if that's brutal, but, that is sport. But I will make an exception here. It felt like, that really was kind of just the toss of a coin, an arbitrary, decision from the gods that somebody had to lose that match. And I was gutted for Bergs, but my goodness me, the incredible Hulk-like scenes from Flavio Cobolli. Just for you, David. And it wasn't an accident. It turns out, or well, not accident, maybe coincidence, it was an intentional Hulk reference, Matt. Tell us everything.
Yes, he was asked about his shirt ripping moment, which is obviously made for some, fantastic front pages of sports newspapers here in Italy today. He was asked about those scenes in the press conference, and he was actually asked whether it was, he's been very clear that like Novak Djokovic is his favorite player and kind of his idol, and was Novak Djokovic in his mind when he did that? And he said, no, I wanted to be like Ulk. he said I've been doing gym every day. He was very pleased about that. He's very pleased with the way he looks, and it sort of added to the moment, I think.
What was your reaction to him saying I've been doing gym every day? Because bless him, mine was, but I sort of assumed that was the job. Like, aren't all of you doing gym every day? Like, maybe they're not. I don't know. Maybe that's naive of me, but well, he is now anyway. And it's working.
It's working in all the ways. It's working for Flavio Cobolli.
What else did we learn about Flavio Cobolli yesterday, Matt? Is it overblown? Is it too kind of caught up in the moment to ask whether that match and that moment could alter the trajectory of Flavio Cobolli's career? Because that's what it felt like in the moment. It was so all-consuming. It was like, this can change a person. Like, it feels like it's changing me. Like, imagine what it's doing to him.
I mean, I think what's interesting here is that he's got another match to play, and like he's gonna have to beat Jaume Munar tomorrow. And actually, Munar has been one of the most impressive players here, I would say, this week as well. He was absolutely excellent to beat Lehechka, and he did that thing today of that, quite a lot of players do, of really going toe-to-toe with Zverev and playing just as well as him and impressing in a lot of moments, but just not quite able to win the biggest moments. That's part of the reason why Zverev's got himself to world number 3. Well, he's got higher than that, hasn't he? But he currently sits at world number 3. But anyway, what I'm saying is Jaume Munar has been very impressive, and it's possible, I think, that Cobolli's Davis Cup experience this week still ends on a loss, because I don't think it's a given at all that he beats Munar tomorrow, because Munar has been really, really good. So then it's kind of like, how do you just take what we saw yesterday? But I think he can, right? I think he had to stand up and deliver in front of an expectant crowd of 10,000, and he did, and we have seen people have those sorts of experiences before and transfer it. But on the other hand, we have seen people only do this sort of thing in Davis Cup before. And that was something Berg spoke about. He said this match more or less did feel like a unique Davis Cup experience, that home and away element. Collignon had been quite interesting, saying how he really struggled to enjoy the occasion. He really struggled with it, and saying he felt the pressure of the crowd. He couldn't feel like he played his best. So I put it to Bergs, were you able to enjoy it? And he said, yes, I was. Like, I absolutely was. I did embrace it. I felt like I could express myself tennis-wise, but it felt different. I knew it was different. I knew it was Davis Cup. He said, and kind of everyone was talking about this really, that sort of match doesn't really happen necessarily on the tour. And how can Cobolli replicate that experience with all of those people pushing him and getting that extra out of him on the tour? It's incredibly hard. So I hope he can take what he showed and bring some real fangs to the tour next year, because he's such an electric guy to watch when he plays well. But I don't know whether we'll see that specific Cobolli again, because it was just so unique, I think.
Maybe he'll keep going to the gym, though. Just something to think
he's definitely going to do that.
If you consider just what a terrible start to the year he had and what a funk he was in, he was really in a low place. I mean, he's actually rebuilt his year very well, even despite this, and he's ended up having a good year. And I do think that this can be a springboard for him for next year. You know, he can come out the blocks next year with his new gym body and, you know, his no points to defend. And, well, maybe a Davis Cup title under his belt. And I do think there is a top-level player in there, you know, certainly a top 10 player, I think Cobolli has the capability of being. But, you know, I know you spent time with him, Matt, in the press conference there, and him and Berrettini are very close, aren't they? I mean, obviously Berrettini's been a huge part of this team as well, but also as like a big brother figure to Cobolli.
Yes, I discovered a video yesterday when I was on tennis Reddit of Matteo Berrettini and Flavio Cobolli as kids. And I hadn't quite realised, to be honest, that their connection went back so long. And it's such a sweet video. You've got Berrettini, who's a teenager at the time, and he's about 14 or 15 in this video, and Cobolli's, you know, 8 or 9 years old. You know, kind of like he does still. Berrettini absolutely towers over Flavio Cobolli in this video, and is a sort of literal big brother figure, and Cobolli sort of munching on a snack and is quite sort of sweet. You know, Berrettini's sort of giving an interview to whoever's filming this video. It's very, very sweet. So I realised that there was a connection there that goes way back. And I asked Berrettini about it, and he just gave the loveliest answer about how much he cares for Flavio Cobolli, and he basically sort of told me their origin story, which was that he went to this club in Rome when he was a teenager, and that's where Cobolli trained, and Cobolli's father, Stefano, was coaching there, and they would put on these tournaments, and that's where this video stems from. And, you know, Berrettini said it's crazy to think about the time that's passed, and now they're in a team together. And he actually mentioned what you just mentioned, David, about earlier this season when Cobolli was in a funk and couldn't win matches. And Berrettini said he spoke to him after Miami, and Cobolli was planning to go and play a challenger to try and get some wins. And Berrettini put his arm around him and said, "You don't need to do that. Your level is there. Train for a couple of weeks. Things are going to come. Don't worry about it." And then Cobolli went and won Bucharest, and kind of his season was off from that. But Berrettini really spoke quite wisely, I think, about the kind of advice he tries to give to young players in terms of not trying to rush everything and hope it all comes quickly. You know, sometimes you've got to take your time and believe in yourself. And he said he liked to get advice from older players when he was younger, and now he sees it as his role to sort of hand out that advice. And he just believes in Cobolli's talent and his game. And he said, "I told him, 'Don't you worry, child,'" which was just so sweet. And, you know, I think that was a big moment in Cobolli's season, having Berrettini there speak to him and back him. And now here they are, all those years later, being the two singles players together for Italy without Sinner and without Musetti, trying to win the Davis Cup. It's pretty magical, you know. It's kind of a reminder that, yes, the Davis Cup is mostly about playing for your country, but also those relationships within a team can be extremely important. And here's Berrettini and Cobolli kind of really playing for each other. And yeah, it's incredibly special.
None of these players would have been anything other than thrilled if Jannik Sinner had put his hand up and been playing for Italy in these finals. And yet, experientially, there probably is something different and potentially more special, or certainly special in a different way, about him not being there and there not being a superstar of that magnitude on this team. I mean, and let's not forget, I mean, you've both said it, but Lorenzo Musetti isn't there either. Like, neither Berrettini nor Cobolli would be playing, most likely, if all of Italy's players had put their hand up and shown up for this tie. Like, that's wild to think that these two would just have been there being Lorenzo Sonego in the background. And look, he does great clapping, does Sonego. And he seems like a great vibe. And what I love is somebody in that role that it doesn't seem chippy about being in that role. You know, Sonego seems fine with it, and bless him. But like, there's up until 3 weeks ago, these two thought that was their destiny, most likely, in this team, to be cheerleaders. And they're potentially going to do something for Italy and for themselves that is totally career defining in a way that it wouldn't have been if they'd done it with Jannik Sinner in the team. I mean, they have already done it with Jannik Sinner in the team, but this is different. And if they do it, it'll probably be better.
Yeah, more special. I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's true. I agree with you. Yeah, it's a heck of a few weeks for Italy when you think of it in those terms, if they actually pull this off, that, you know, Sinner's gone and won everything, and then Musetti's had his big moment at the ATP finals and his big qualification, and obviously the women have won the Billie Jean King Cup, and now these two come along.
Crazy.
And Vavasori Irani.
Yeah, mixed doubles champions at the US Open, David. How can you forget?
An official Grand Slam tournament. Reimagined.
On the bloody Roll of Honour and everything.
Do you have anything more to say about that first match in this tie? Berrettini beating Collignon 6-3, 6-4. I mean, you mentioned it there, Matt, with Collignon's post-match comments that kind of summed it up. Like, he was not the guy that we'd seen in the quarterfinals in this match. Not by a long shot, really.
No, although he did start slowly in the quarterfinals as well. You know, against Mute. I think he was struggling a little bit there as well, but grew into it found it easier to grow into it in the quarterfinals, whereas I think just the cacophony of noise made it harder to do that in the semi-finals. It's quite interesting because he had been the guy for Belgium, you know, to get them to the final eight. It was him who scored the 2 singles wins, including upsetting Alex de Minaur in Australia, you know, to get them here. And I think also that was why, I was speaking to a Belgian journalist, and she was telling me, I think that was part of the reason why Bergs was so crushed as well, in that he's the higher ranked of the two, and I think he wanted it to be kind of his moment as well, you know, like him to be the hero, whereas Collignon had been the hero before. I think he sort of was desperate for that moment for himself, obviously for the team as well. I guess the only other thing I would add is that I thought Berrettini looked a lot better in this one than he had in the quarterfinal. I thought he looked fitter. I thought his forehand was absolutely firing, and he was using his slice to good effect as well. He sort of gave. He
looked like 2021 Berrettini, didn't he? It was a real roll back the years performance. Made me misty eyed.
He gave a answer in press about how his slice got so good, and he sort of laughed and said, well, it's when I was injured when I was younger. I couldn't hit a two-handed backhand because I had a left wrist injury, so my coach just said, okay, well, let's just work on your slice then in this time when you can't play. And he really developed it and made it a weapon. And yeah, he had that blend going on, and he used the crowd extremely well, I thought, and they all got behind him. So had some real doubts about Berrettini coming into this event. Even after that first match, I wasn't convinced, but I thought he was excellent here. And yeah, I suppose that was probably my big takeaway from an Italian perspective on that first match.
Bodes well, doesn't it, for the final for Matteo Berrettini, and we will look ahead to that final and talk about the other semi-final that's just wrapped up between Spain and Germany in part 2. Welcome back to the Tennis Podcast, where we turn our attention to Spain's victory over Germany now in a decisive doubles. We had Pablo Carreno Busta beating Struffy 6-4, 7-6. We had an ill Alexander Zverev. He wants everyone to know that. He was ill and he still beat Jaume Munar 7-6, 7-6 to take it into the decisive doubles where Marcel Granollers and Pedro Martinez did what's been impossible in Davis Cup. They beat Kevin Kravitz and Tim Putz, the undefeatable German doubles team, 6-2, 3-6, 6-3. And they're the heroes of this tie, really, David, Granollers and Martinez.
Yeah, because, they've split those first two rubbers. I mean, I'm very impressed with Pablo Carreno Busta getting that win over Struffy. And then Zverev, you talked about, got that narrow win over Munar. And then, I was pleased this came out to the doubles, but I really did think it was going to go Germany's way because of that record that you've just spoken about. And then suddenly, Granollers and Martinez just burst out of the blocks and won the first 4 games, barely lost a point. I mean, they were just hitting it. It didn't matter what the Germans did. They were hitting winners off everything. And then won that first set 6-2. And then the second set went as kind of dramatically the wrong way for them as the first one went the right way. They suddenly couldn't cope with the German combination, really, who you can see how much they've played with one another. So you get into this deciding set. And I mean, I really thought the Germans would win. I thought that this is where they're just taking over. They're showing why they have this incredible record. And even though the Spanish team is strong, it doesn't feel as cohesive generally. They don't feel like, they feel more like two players who have slightly different skills to one another, but not quite the team that the German team were. But they found some inspiration in the middle of that set. And I mean, Granollers, some of the shots he was hitting. I mean, he's an incredible net player for a start. I mean, his anticipation, his interceptions and so forth. And then he hit one round the net post shot at sort of ankle height between the net post and the sort of block of a sponsorship block. And the imagination to even think of it was astonishing. And then when they were sort of trying to serve it out, we actually saw a kind of a bit of a choke from the German team with the overheads, and Tim Putz had not been. He doesn't. He's got a great serve for a guy of his size, and I think he's normally got an amazing overhead, and he just fluffed a couple. And that was just at the nick of time because Spain were wobbling a little bit, trying to seal it, trying to serve it out and get over the line. But sometimes you need a little bit of that, don't you? And I thought that was quite an upset. But just a huge credit to Granollers and Martinez. You line them up on the bench and they don't get many questions in the press conferences, but they just quite happy to be a part of the team and play their part when they're asked to come out. And like you said at the start, Catherine, they've made themselves heroes today. Isn't that great? To just know that they're the ones. I think that must be a great feeling.
It will never know, but had Alcaraz not been injured and been in this team, he probably would have been picked for the doubles just because he's Carlos Alcaraz. How can you not? Yeah. How can you not put him on the court at every possible opportunity? And yet, he's not a very good doubles player. I'm not saying that would be the wrong decision to pick Carlos Alcaraz, or I'd be strong enough not to in David Ferrer's shoes, or that they necessarily would have lost. But on evidence we've seen so far, he's not that good a doubles player. And it might, I mean, ultimately, again, they would rather have Carlos Alcaraz in tomorrow's Davis Cup final. But in terms of this doubles and winning this tie, I don't know, maybe it didn't hurt.
Well, look, we've got the case study from a year ago, right? When they did have Martinez on the team, they could have paired him up with Granollers in the doubles. So
easy to forget that Martinez was on that team, Matt.
Yep. Do you remember him in the enormous Rafael Nadal press conference with sort of all of the world's media there? He was just sat on the end.
Barely in the camera shot. Yeah.
He was fairly conscious, I think, by the end of the press conference.
It's like, why did I have to be here? I could have had a lie-in.
Yeah, and yeah, he was on that team. They didn't use him, and they went out with Carlos Alcaraz against a very, very strong doubles team. And Wesley Koolhof that day was superb, but they were playing a very strong doubles team here in Putz and Kravitz, and it goes to show just how much can change in a year, because Martinez has gone from literally not playing and just being on the sidelines last year to actually being a real hero for them this whole Davis Cup campaign. He played the doubles that started the comeback of Spain's qualifier against Denmark, and he didn't play with Granollers. Granollers wasn't there. He played with Munar, and they won that doubles and ended up winning that tie. And then he's paired with Granollers here to win 2 deciding doubles, and he's actually unbeaten in Davis Cup this year in 2 singles matches and 4 doubles matches. He's been so good for Spain. And I just came from the Spanish press conference before coming here to do the podcast, and they said something which I found interesting. It makes total sense, but the key was that they both played well and kind of caught fire at the same time in the same games. It's kind of no good in doubles if only one of you is playing well and winning the points, for example, on return on the deuce side. If you then can't win the ad court points as well, you don't really get anywhere. But what happened was
Or if you're on fire and your partner's fluffing all the volleys.
Right, exactly. But what happened was it was Martinez on the deuce side. There was a couple of games where he just hit a brilliant return straight away and got them in the game. And then Granollers responded and hit a brilliant return as well. And they were backing each other up really well and matching each other's energy. And I think that was really important for them. And yeah, it's a hell of a win because, I thought they absolutely needed. I thought they were underdogs in all 3 matches today, to be honest, Spain. I thought they needed to flip 2 of them at least, and that's what they did. I think maybe Carreno Busta, I sort of wrote him off too much. I think, there's sort of class is permanent. Feels like maybe it's come in there, and he hasn't had
so sweetly today though, like a dream.
Oh, absolutely. He's not had the season he would have wanted. He's had some injuries as well, but he has, in the last month or so, got a lot of form on the Challenger Tour. He's playing matches again. He's winning matches again. And he was brilliant today. A really nice blend of attack when he needed to, also soaking up some of Struff's power. But even after that win, I still felt like they needed to flip one of them. Because Zverev was favoured over Munar, and Kravitz and Putz with that record, I just felt like they were favoured as well. So for Granollers and Martinez to do what they did was pretty special.
He had 6-1 in the second set tiebreak, Struff.
Jan Lennart Struff.
I mean, Carreno Busta was great, but it was a joke.
Oh,
it was a joke.
Totally. Like it's harsh to say, but you can't sugarcoat that because What was odd was that he'd been really, I'm going to use the other sort of C word, the opposite word, clutch. He'd been so clutch. Yeah, don't worry, that C word. He'd been so clutch to save a load of Carreno Busta match points just before the tiebreak. He'd hit winners on all of them. And then he got into the tiebreak and he started it impeccably, Struff. Just brilliant. Attacking tennis. And I thought, right, 6-1, this set is over. We are going to a third and Struff's going to have the momentum. But it wasn't even like there was a turning point other than the fact that he suddenly had 5 set points. But he lost his game and he lost his nerve and he just became an error machine. And Carreno Busta did well to sort of keep the ball in play and make him play. And I think just the belief grew as soon as he kept saving set point after set point with Ferrer on the bench there as well. Suddenly felt like something was on, but no, Struff, unfortunately, a terrible choke. He lost 7 points in a row to lose the match. Lost his 5 consecutive set points, and it was brutal because it's just a massive choke.
Okay, I'm glad you've validated my take there, Matt. Appreciate it. Okay, that's it for part 2. Join us in part 3 for your old favourite, Punchy predictions. Welcome back to part 3 of the tennis podcast, where there's really just one punchy prediction that I want from you both, because there is just, well, there's more than one match, but there is one tie remaining in the 2025 tennis season. Who is winning the Davis Cup tomorrow? And since there is only one tie to predict, I would like individual match predictions from you both as well. David.
Desperately love it to go to the doubles, but I don't think it will. I think that Berrettini will take out Carreno Busta. I think Cobolli will take out Jaume Munar. I don't think they'll be massively one-sided. I think, Carreno Busta's shown he can handle a big serve, and he's playing beautiful tennis, actually. I still think the sort of presence of Berrettini and the relentlessness of him will hit through him eventually. He's not going to, I don't think, make the sort of errors that Struff made. And then in the other match, I think you've got two players that are, again, quite similar in Munar and Cobolli. They both move well. They both hit well from the baseline. They're both going to go for the shots. They're both going to bring loads of emotion. I just think Cobolli's that little bit better. And, with the emotion of it all, I think he's going to be at his best. And I don't quite think Munar will stay with him. So I think it'll be Italy in 2.
Compelling. Yeah. Matt?
And we have not had a Davis Cup final in the new format or a Billie Jean King Cup final in the new format go to the deciding doubles. They have all been won in the singles.
Goodness.
That is a shame.
It is a shame. I would love for this to go to the deciding doubles, because I also think it would be compelling. You would have Granollers and Martinez in form. We've seen that. They've won 2 matches against good teams, but taking on an experienced double team themselves in Bolelli and Vavasori, but they haven't played Bolelli and Vavasori all week. They've been sat on the bench. What's their form going to be like? But they'll have the crowd, so it would just be a fascinating cocktail of elements in that deciding doubles. I think I underestimate Munar a lot. So I think I'm going to go with some Davis Cup magic and say that we might finally get the doubles. There's a lot of me that agrees with what David's just said. I think
you don't underestimate Jaume Munar, Matt. You're always banging on about how good Munar is. You think we underestimate Munar?
Is this the point at which we need to declare that Matt has got a citizenship application currently under processing with the Spanish
Matt is a
consulate?
Munar guy.
And Matt is a playing to the crowd guy. Matt is a guy that predicted Alexei Popyrin to do something at the Australian Open during our Melbourne live show, just to win some approval. Right. So look, I'm just letting the audience know, take Matt's prediction under advisement.
I don't want my Spanish citizenship application to fail. Having had to ring my lawyer during my interview, I really don't want it to fail on the grounds of underestimating Jaume Munar.
So you think it's going to the doubles?
I haven't overall said who I think is going to win. I think in the doubles, I think Italy might take it, which maybe makes no logical sense, because if it goes to the doubles, you've got Granollers and Martinez. They're in form. I just think Vavasori.
We can't have seen the things we've seen this year and doubt Andrea Vavasori, though, can we?
I'd love to see Vavasori and Granollers against one another at the net. Imagine those two.
Yeah, I guess overall I'm going with Italy and the power in that stadium. So I do think Italy will win.
And does that maybe this is a discussion for tomorrow in our wrap show, but would that kind of raise integrity issues for you? The fact that, they are guaranteed to be hosting this thing for 3 years. They don't have to qualify. They get an automatic pass through to the finals because they are the hosts. And I understand that you want the hosts in the final, but integrity of the competition wise, it's not ideal. And it is a massive advantage to play this thing at home.
Yeah. I really don't think there's that much of a conversation to be had about that. I think that is absolutely an issue. Yes, I felt it when it was in Spain. Okay, Spain didn't take advantage of it, but yes, it's definitely an issue for sure.
It would be a weird that, again, maybe this is a discussion for tomorrow in the, if this eventuality plays out, but it'd be a very weird thing for Vavasori and Bolelli to win that trophy having never had the opportunity to play. It's not like they weren't picked. It's not like they played and lost, but still made a contribution. Like they just never even got the chance to factor in. I don't know. I just think that's a weird place to be.
It is again another potential issue with the format, right? Where doubles players come to the event and they can not play. They can be here all week and not play, and the doubles is either the most important thing or it's not played at all. And that dynamic, maybe you love that, but it is a bit of a problem like for the players, I think, just coming here, preparing and just maybe not even getting a chance to take to the court. That must be really, really unsatisfactory, I think.
And from another point of view, the scenario where, let's say it goes to deciding doubles tomorrow and it ends up hurting Italy that they've won through to the finals so easily without needing their doubles, because it means that their doubles team are coming in cold and haven't had the chance to play. Do we want that to be a decisive factor in these matches? I don't know. Maybe we save that discussion for tomorrow once we know how this thing plays out. Okay, so everyone's going Italy. Think I'm going Italy.
Do you think we're going to get doubles, Catherine?
Both made very compelling cases. I think I back Berrettini. I really do. I think he's not letting this thing go. I just think Berrettini is a force of nature in Bologna this week. I agree with Matt that Munar is the one. If one's going to flip, it's Munar. But I'm a Cobolli guy now, David.
Yeah, you said cut me open. I bleed Cobolli
cut
earlier
me
today.
And I bleed Cobolli. I've always said that. So I'm going with David's prediction. I think, sadly, this isn't going to the doubles. I think Italy might do it in the two singles. But Spain won't even consider me for citizenship. So languishing with my Brexit passport. Right, we will be back with a live podcast at the end of it all. Plan A is for that podcast to be at 8 p.m, but tennis gods laugh at Plan A, so please keep across our social channels, sign up to our newsletter. We will send out alerts notifying you when we know what time the live show will be. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll get an alert when we're going live as well. That is the best way to make sure you know when our live show is coming tomorrow. But as close to 8 o'clock as we can, basically, tennis permitting. Thank you, tennis. And
when's it all start? It's not an early start like it was today, is it?
It's an in-between start. It's a 3 o'clock local rather than 4 or 12, which it's been every other day. They're really keeping us on our toes with the start times. 3 o'clock local is the start time.
Our predictions are right, David, then 8 p.m. could happen. But if
Correct.
Matt's right, then 8 p.m. starts to feel like a slightly more distant dream.
Yeah, if we go to the doubles, it's a late night live show.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll put the link to the newsletter in the show notes. Subscribe to our Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube, do all the things, and that's the best way to be informed. And we'll be back to talk about all of it with a live show tomorrow to wrap the 2025 season. Of course, we've got more podcasts. It doesn't mean that the tennis podcast wraps the 2025 season, but in terms of live tennis to talk about, that will be it for a full 5 weeks, folks. Less if you count the next gen finals, which not sure if anybody does, but there you go. Don't forget, You can keep up to date with the Davis Cup finals on the Davis Cup Instagram, TikTok and X. You can sign up to the free official Davis Cup newsletter at daviscup.com, and you can follow all the action on the newly updated World Cup of Tennis app, which brings together the Davis Cup and Billie Jean King Cup by Gamebridge. Search World Cup of Tennis on the App Store or Play Store to download for free. Thank you to our mascots. Hello, Phoebe, Maisie and Roger. Hello to our top folks and executive producers, Greg, Chris and Jeff. Where do we stand on shout-outs tonight, Matt?
I can do them if you'd like me to.
Huge news. Yes, please.
Yeah. Pumped.
Yeah. Great. So these are the shout-outs that were meant to be on the last show, but I'm doing them now. And we have Lisa Toll from Clifton Park, New York.
Hello,
Hi, Lisa.
Lisa.
Like Lisa Raymond.
Lisa Raymond declined for the Tennis Hall of Fame, I saw this week. Ben Rothenberg published a really interesting graphic about all the players that had been put forward but not voted in. It's a far more brutal system than I realised.
Sterling work that by Ben, wasn't it?
It really was impressive.
You don't know that stuff.
The number of people that had been put forward consecutive years, like some people 3 consecutive years and rejected 3 consecutive years. Brutal. Sorry, Lisa Raymond. Any other tennis Lisas that haven't been rejected by the International Tennis Hall of Fame?
Our Lisa is not being rejected as a friend and a shout out. Very much accepted.
And our Lisa is an identical twin and says, I can completely relate to the Bryan brothers because I played with my sister and being a twin is a game changer. It totally throws off your opponents.
I wonder if one's a lefty, one's a righty.
They got in last year, didn't they? They got in the Hall of Fame. The Bryans.
I always have so many questions for identical twins. Like,
but they'd be good at traitors.
What a fascinating way to go through the world, knowing that there's an identical, another version of you, but there's also not. You're independent, like wild. Science is wild. Lisa, thank you.
Next we have Alan Ow, who says, ow pronounced as in ouch, like you hurt yourself.
It's really helpful, Alan.
Cheers, Alan.
Alan
Thank
from
you.
Los Angeles.
Oh, an American flavour on today's show.
Like the late, great Alan Mills.
Oh, very good, David. Lifting the Covers, his autobiography. The referee of Wimbledon for so many years. Very good.
Thanks, Alan.
I just started watching a show called I Love LA. There you go. That's my LA connection.
Any good?
Home to Pamela Howard Shriver. I'm enjoying it. I think you would hate it.
Oh.
So it's not a recommendation, but
why would I hate it?
Do think it's good. It's not. I don't think it's your genre.
We'll pick this up later.
Look up the blurb and you tell me if you think it's something that would interest you.
Sometimes I like the stuff you like. Sometimes I don't.
Yes. I think this would be an example of the latter. Anyway.
Okay. Good to know.
Alan, thank you.
And finally, we have Mark Lattimore from Derby in the UK, but originally from Reading.
Hey.
Reading, Berkshire, home of the Royals.
Correct. Also a long-suffering Reading fan, Mark says.
God.
Oh, Mark.
1-1 draw at home to Rotherham today. It's not glamour. It's not glamour down there in League One.
Oh, well. At least you got a good tennis name like Mark Woodford, Philippoussis.
Knowles.
Yeah.
Also rejected by the International Tennis Hall of Fame, I think.
Was he? I know Daniel Nestor was.
Oh, maybe it was Nestor.
Yeah.
And then maybe they thought we won't try with Knowles.
Nestor more than once, according to Ben's grid. Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah, the X is just brutal, isn't it?
Yeah. A Reading person. Is that the first? Have we had Reading people before?
Yes.
Yes.
Have we?
Oh, yes. Yeah. People are very pleased when they can tell you that they're
from Reading.
Reading
Reading
people.
Mark went to. Let me know, Mark.
Cheers, Mark.
Mark, Alan, Lisa. Thank you ever so much for being friends of the Tennis Podcast. Thank you all for listening. We are part of the Athletic Podcast Network. We will be back tomorrow with a live show at the end of the Davis Cup final between Spain and Italy. We'll speak to you then.